this interview. Yes, that was an alarm, but we are all okay and back to business. And speaking of back to business, here's a guest who's making a return appearance, coming back to the C-Space studio, Jeff Schiller, now with Vice Media, where you are the Executive Vice President of the commercial business there. Welcome back.
Thank you, happy to be here. It's 3 years, too long.
Exactly, and a lot has happened. Some things have happened in your life as well. You've joined Vice Media. So first, maybe just I think people might have a visceral understanding of what Vice Media means. You and I were talking before this, it's kind of the idea of edgy documentaries. Maybe that's kind of the brand people know if they know it peripherally. But give us a snapshot of the overall Vice empire.
Yeah, it's so interesting. When I was checking in, getting my badge that I'm not wearing right now, that's the first thing that comes to mind. It's like the documentaries, the sort of like hard-hitting, behind the lines of like, you know, sort of places that nowhere else can go.
Yeah.
But really, Vice Media Group is this diversified portfolio of everything from studio to publishing, certainly news, as mentioned, but like really at its core, it's a youth media company.
Yeah, and so how do you define youth? How old do you have to be to not be a youth anymore?
I'm definitely not
young
a youth.
at heart, maybe? Is that
yeah, exactly. Look, I mean, I think part of the industry's challenge has always been sort of tethering to a generational moniker.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, we're a millennial company, we're a Gen Z. We are squarely focused on young people. So what does that mean? 18 to 34 with probably a more of a focus on the 18 to sort of 24, you know, 25 to 34, depending on which one of our brands, like a refinery. 29 definitely skews more like that, but like generally youth means young people.
But I mean, I imagine that as people age, and we all do, you want to stay in that young demographic, so the company's going to kind of continually evolve and change to meet the needs of that kind of audience.
Exactly, and that's been the sort of guiding principle since it was a, you know, Montreal-based zine. And so I think the audience has since migrated. Today it's TikTok, it's Instagram, it's Snap, it's all the places that you would expect young people to consume content. That's where Vice is.
Yeah. Are you on, you are on linear TV as well, right?
Yeah,
if I wanted
absolutely.
to watch in the traditional way, I could. But you have quite a challenge because you're running the commercial business and you're trying to monetize this brand across all these different types of content and outlets for it. How do you think about that challenge?
First and foremost, client and what will make their life easier. And so I think, you know, through the lens of we have omni-channel assets, is that how they plan all the time? Not necessarily. So because we have all of this sort of surround sound capability doesn't mean we're always going to use it 100% of the time. So it starts with what's the base client need, and then we deploy our assets. So that could be we're doing work that is driven more through the lens of like typical creative commercial work. That could be through Pulse Films. It could be long form that we work with the Netflix, the streamers of the world, and that could be through Vice Studios, or it could be traditional advertising, and that's where our publishing assets come in. We'd always be more than happy to engage across everything all at once, kind of like that movie, you know, everything.
Everything Everywhere All at Once, I think it's called. Yeah.
But, you know, those are special occasions that, you know, really I think are few and far in between versus the sort of lead with client need and deploy the assets that make the most sense first.
And are you often guiding your clients as far as what kind of advertising, what kind of content will actually resonate with this audience? And do you have to kind of give them new insights they might not otherwise have because you have them as the media company?
Absolutely. I think what makes Vice special and unique in a very crowded space is we sort of represent the beating heart of young people. So in terms of creative compass, we're that first call where it's like, we want to understand youth culture. Where is it? Where's it going?
Yeah.
What are the things that are motivating young people as far as like issues that matter to them? Who are they following from an influence lens? And then I think the other sort of secret sauce that we have is it's not about what's happening right now. We certainly report on that, we write on that, we provide utility for millions of people on that, but it's like where things are going, and it's not just about us reporting on it, it's leading. We'll sort of be the ones that'll say, we just found this musician or this chef or this trend. So I think as far as the brands and helping them, we're uniquely positioned to be, you know, essentially a maximum value partner for that reason versus like the sort of everybody's, you know, saying we're like content commerce or something, sort of more jargony, we're providing real value.
Do young people have a certain set of expectations when it comes to the way that they are marketed and advertised to, that you have to meet, that are maybe different from how other generations might think about it?
Absolutely, and I think, again, Vice is incredibly well positioned. So, we were talking about this earlier, you take news, the least trusted content format, for a variety of reasons, fake news, disinformation, general apathy, and Vice is the most trusted name in news for young people. So I think they expect authentic, real portrayals, they expect representation, and not sort of performative representation, but real representation, so they can see the people that are on their TV screen or on their computer screen or on their phone that look like them, that talk like them, that act like them. So I think, like, for us, dealing with young people, all the things that sort of we do inherently are designed to attract young people. And so we're in a really good position to, because we are so authentic, because we are representative, because we tell the stories that maybe other folks are afraid to. But I would say, that was the long-winded answer. The short-winded, they can sniff out inauthenticity and sort of BS from a mile away.
Even if, I imagine that's true, even if there's someone who's doing something inauthentic, and then maybe even making a meta self-reference to the fact that it's inauthentic, is even that too inauthentic for this crew? I mean, I think it's, for folks who grew up in different generations and created advertising for other kinds of generations, it might be challenging to shift your mindset into, like, how authentic do I really have to be? How much of myself am I going to show? If advertising is all about what you say and what you don't say, but I'm used to not saying certain things, maybe I have to say them now. I'm fishing a little bit, but I'm just trying to understand what the heck is up with young people these days, and what do they actually want?
They want to be heard, and they want to be heard, and they want to have a 360 loop where it's not just about you telling them, it's a conversation, and that's really been driven by the creator sort of landscape, and that's why creators have really disrupted everything, because they are the people. Our greatest competition is young people, and our greatest sort of, obviously golden goose is young people.
You mean competition as far as if there's a piece of Vice content on TikTok or something else, they could just as easily watch something else that's kind of user-generated,
because they're creating content on their own.
Right.
They in turn, become somewhat a competitor. But what do you do when you have a competitor? You get better. You sort of push each other, and so and then to some extent you bring them into the fold. And that's what we're doing. That's why we have our correspondents, again, that speak to young people. We have hosts that speak to young people. So I think it's an interesting dynamic. I wouldn't say it's unique to us. Every media company competes with young people.
Sure.
But we just happen to meet them where they are, treat them, the way that they have asked us to treat them, and then, watch the sort of fireworks ensue.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, the idea that every company is competing with young people, but maybe you're one of the companies that's actually admitting it, or maybe facing that truth with honesty.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a differentiator for you. I know that you have a partnership with Twitch that you want to tell us something about. So what's going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. Super excited. So Refinery, long ago, was leading the way from a progressive perspective in terms of shining a light on underrepresented communities. So in keeping with that, a year ago, we launched a franchise called Good Game. Good Game spotlights non-male gamers, so female, non-binary gamers. We know from Gamergate years ago that non-male gamers have been trolled, and it's just been a very toxic space where then you look on Twitch, you look in the sort of influencer-verse, and the majority of really massive followings are tied to non-male gamers. And so we launched Good Game, seen it grow over the last year. Then about 6 months ago, we launched Good Game Live on Twitch, which is a weekly stream. Also seen incredible growth, both live and on VOD. And this week, we're announcing a partnership more directly with Twitch, outside of us just being on Twitch, where we can actually package up the scale of Twitch with the premium, brand safe, hour-long stream of Good Game, and go to advertisers that are saying, I want to get some test and learn within gaming more broadly, or I want to leverage some of my diversity, equity, and inclusion budgets to reach this audience of non-male gamers in a heavily male-dominated space. So in essence, it's a partnership that allows for us to trade on the scale of Twitch with the contextual relevance of good gaming.
Well, congratulations on that announcement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you mentioned the term brand safe. Does your particular company, when you're working with advertisers, require them to sometimes rethink the term brand safe or what that means? I guess I'm thinking like, a younger person might not care if there's profanity in an ad, for example, where an older person might. Or maybe there's just different kinds of things that can appear in an ad, different sentiments that may be actually brand safe in this context.
It's a great question. There's not a one-size-fits-all answer.
Sure.
I will say most brands still are erring on the side of conservative relative to, profanity or anything that like maybe from an editorial lens might be something that we do without batting an eye. So, when we think about branded content collaborations, first and foremost, it's like, what are the directives that are coming from the client, and then how do we come together and not compromise their voice, not compromise our voice, but again, hold true to what our task is, which is to create meaningful results. And that's, all of our brands are, if everyone else is in 1080p, speaking of CES, we're in 8K. And like, that is the secret weapon that is the Vice Media portfolio. So it doesn't really become an issue because they trust that they're coming to us for that creative firepower.
Yeah. One last question to end us out here. We're looking at 2023. 2023 will be the year of blank.
Profitability.
There we go. I would expect nothing less from the head of commercial business at Vice Media.
Exactly.
Jeff Scheller, thanks so much for joining us here at the C-Space studio.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
We really appreciate you coming, and we really appreciate you for watching. This is the C-Space studio at CES 2023. I'm James Kotecki. Keep it here because more great conversations are just ahead. Hey, we're back in the C-Space studio here at CES 2023. And do you like food? I do, and that's why I'm excited to talk to our next guest, Doug Martin, Chief Brand and Disruptive Growth Officer at General Mills, which makes many of the great food products that so many of us enjoy. Can you just start rattling off some brands just
Absolutely.
to get us going?
So Cheerios, Lucky Charms, Progresso Soup, Nature Valley, Yoplait Yogurt, Pillsbury Biscuits, Totino's Pizza Rolls. We got a lot of good stuff.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting hungry, and I really appreciate that you're here. What's your favorite product?
You know what? I am super partial to the original yellow box Cheerios.
Just the classics.
Yeah, it was like first finger food for my son, and he still eats them today. He's 13 years old.
Okay, there you go. So Chief Brand and Disruptive Growth Officer. Tell us about what that title means inside your organization.
Absolutely. So Chief Brand Officer is very much sort of a traditional CMO role, leading our brand building activities. Disruptive Growth is a set of activities and capabilities that we have to build new businesses. So we have a venture capital arm, 301 Inc., and then we have a group of employees who are forming 3-person teams to start brand new businesses and do it as entrepreneurs. And how can they innovate quickly, learn fast, get things in front of a consumer quickly, different areas that we wouldn't necessarily get to in the normal course of our doing business.
So can we dive into that for a minute?
Absolutely.
First of all, why 3 people?
So interesting. So we bring 3 people together, basically a commercial mindset, like a business mindset, and a kind of investigative question-asking mindset, so that they can work together. It's lonely to try to start something up from scratch.
Yes.
And so we've tried to bring complementary skills together so that they have all that they need together to move really quickly and get to lowest fidelity solution that I can put in front of a consumer and get some kind of a reaction.
Huh. And do you have any examples of businesses that have spun out of this process?
Yeah, so it's a relatively new capability for us, but one of our first teams, the problem they were trying to solve is the problem of people with diabetes. Huge number of people with diabetes in the United States, and everyone wants the same convenience. So they built a brand that is about low impact to your blood sugar and have proven that these snacks, in fact, have no impact. And now they're at the point where these are going to start scaling into regular grocery stores. So it's a little brand called Good Measure, and they've done a great job with it.
And is a lot of this kind of about recombining the way that you contextualize this to consumers versus starting entire new food products from scratch? Because I imagine there's so many different ways that you as a marketer could slice and dice what you accentuate about different products, and maybe some of the branding is around that.
I think a lot of this is about, for us, how do we move quickly and reduce elements of risk? So in that example of dealing with consumers with diabetes, like if you were to put a Nature Valley product out there, it's going to get a certain amount of attention. It has to be perfect on day one. This team needed 6 months, a year to just learn with low fidelity, digital concepts, et cetera, and then move from there into real products. So lowering the barriers to failure, being willing to fail fast and iterate and come back.
That's interesting. And these are all folks, to be clear, these are folks on the General Mills
payroll,
but they just get this chance to innovate.
And it's a combination of people we've brought in from our core and some entrepreneurs that we've hired from outside of the company.
Fantastic. When you think about a lot of these legacy brands, these long-time brands like Cheerios, oh my gosh, how many years has that been around? And we all love Cheerios, we all eat Cheerios, but how do you think about marketing something like that, something that's ubiquitous, something that we all know and love? How do you keep that fresh? Where do you keep coming up with ideas for this?
Yeah, absolutely, and actually CES is such an interesting place to think about that, because I walked the floor and I was like, oh my God, brand new, completely new technology or something. If you just need to tell someone about it.
Right.
Everybody knows about Cheerios. And so for us, it's really about 2 things. It's one, it's a brand that is built on a foundation of really a deeply held set of beliefs about the value that they can add in families. And in the case of Cheerios, it's first finger food up through heart health. And then it's finding new and emotionally resonant ways to connect with consumers on that journey. And then sprinkle in some new flavors, sprinkle in Cheerios Oat Crunch, which is a little bit of a new form factor, but it's staying consistent with a purpose-led brand and building year after year after year.
I noticed in your bio that it says you're a leader who sometimes encourages discomfort and risks. Is there something that you're currently feeling uncomfortable about?
I feel uncomfortable about everything. That's my secret. No, I mean...
You're like the Hulk, right? I'm always angry, I'm always uncomfortable.
Exactly. What's my secret? I'm always uncomfortable. That's a perfect example. No, I would say we have teams that are really, really good, really, really established at doing what they're doing. And all of our teams are also continuously trying to learn how to do it better. And so that creates a little bit of a discomfort. This world that we live in that's so digitally connected, it has really challenged some of our functional silos for a company that's been around 150 years.
Yeah.
So we're always finding new ways to cross those barriers. What is sales? What is marketing in a digital world with e-commerce? Luckily, we have great relationships in the company, and we're tackling those barriers, but those are things that we always need to constantly challenge.
One of the themes of CES this year are global challenges.
Yes.
So it's called Human Security for All. That's the
Yeah.
theme of CES, and we're talking about everything including environmental security, health security, food security.
Yeah.
Is this a resonant theme with General Mills, and how does that play out for you?
100%, and obviously there is no human security without food security. And what we do at General Mills is we take agricultural commodities out of the ground, we combine them in really tasty ways, put them in a box and make it convenient for you. We don't grow any of those things, but we're a huge player in this ecosystem. And so one of the things that we're really focused on is regenerative agriculture. And it's a little bit tricky because it's sort of like a what is that term for the common person, but basically, if we are farming in a way that is stripping away topsoil, then we'll run out. I mean, that is the dire truth. And so General Mills is working on converting 1 million acres to being farmed regeneratively. So it's farmed in a way that you're putting nutrients, minerals, and health back in the soil. Yeah. And that has to also live within an ecosystem, within a watershed, within an ecosystem of agriculture that supports itself. So, you know, that's something that's really, really important to us and that we're super focused on.
And you can just drive that trend because you're just a major buyer of these.
We don't drive the train, but in the example, we buy more oats than anyone else in the world.
Yeah.
So if we start to work with oat farmers about how they're farming their oats, and we do a pilot and show them that this can be sustainable not only for the earth, but also to create economic sustainability for the farmer, then the people want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And so we're just trying to help people understand the science, build models that can show them this works, and then the acceptance comes with that.
So it's more of a pull than a push. It's less of it's not a directive from on high that you must change this. Is there a prediction for it? You have such an industry that is just so part of everyone's day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of predictions or crazy ideas about your industry that people might think are wild but could actually come true?
You know, kind of short term, I think what's winning in the United States right now is the click and collect model. Very convenient for the consumer. It's a relatively affordable model. We may or may not be heading into some kind of recession. But the problem that retailers find is that all those shoppers that they have in their store need to be there at the exact same time as all those people who are now employees picking groceries. And that's creating some traffic and some negative experiences. I think you're going to see a lot more dark stores where they're going to be drive up though. So it's not just a dark building. I think employees will be in there picking your groceries, you drive up, fulfill the order. I think that's a model that we're going to see. And then long term, there's been a lot of work going on to add robotics into the grocery store.
Yep.
And I think the focus early on has been in back of house, mostly because that's more of a controlled environment. But I do think long term, you're going to see robotics come into the front of house in grocery as well.
And a place like General Mills is so obviously a good fit for that because ideally every single one of the Cheerios boxes that you make or Yoplait yogurts, it's exactly the same. So I don't have to worry about the ripeness of the banana.
We are already starting to have to answer questions like, hey, the shape of this package, is this going to be grabbable by a machine? You know, look at the work that Kroger's partnering with Ocado on those automated warehouses, and something like a yogurt cup that is round and has a foil lid might not be the best thing to be grabbed by a metal arm. So these are questions we're going to have to ask ourselves.
Well, Doug Martin, disrupting and shaking things up at General Mills. Thanks so much for sharing some of your time with us today.
It was a treat to be here. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for watching. It's a treat to have you watching us here in the C-Space studio. I'm James Kotecki. This is CES 2023. We are sponsored by Salesforce here, and we'll be back soon. Welcome back to the C-Space studio here at CES 2023. I am James Kotecki, joined by someone who is no stranger to CES interviews, Brenda Disher, SVP Business Strategy and Marketing at Siemens. Welcome to yet another conversation.
Yet another.
To talk about how, but you know what, you deserve all these conversations because Siemens is doing some amazing
cool stuff.
Things.
Cool
Can
stuff
you just, for those who haven't seen any of it, you and I we did a podcast together. I know you were on Brian Tong's show earlier today, but for those who haven't seen those and want to catch up, can you quickly snapshot for us Siemens and your presence here at CES?
Absolutely. So I would say we've been to CES before, but this year we came in a big way, and mainly because Siemens is, believe it or not, a startup, but we're 175 years old. We started up in a small little garage in Berlin. And this year at CES was really a lot of us showing our own transformation that we've made to become more of a tech company. We were traditionally more of an industrial conglomerate. And so if you think about becoming a tech company for us, we have a software division that has had explosive growth. It's the division I started with. But I've kind of gone other places in the company. And the company is now leveraging software kind of at the tip of the spear to rethink the way we enable digital transformation for companies big and small globally. So this is a big show for us this year to really showcase cool stuff customers are doing.
And we have to talk about some of these highlights that you're showcasing in your booth and your space here. Space Perspective is one that obviously comes to mind from our previous conversation. Tell us what that is.
So Space Perspective is a really interesting customer. So everybody is fascinated by space, right? We all hear about it, we watch it, but none of us get to go to space because we're not going to be trained astronauts at any time in the near future. Space Perspective is creating a pod. It's almost like it looks like a sphere, a pod, and it's lifted with a balloon for a very luxurious ride. 2 hours up, 2 hours literally at the tip of the atmosphere where you look down at space.
Amazing.
And 2 hours descend back down. It's a 6-hour ride for anybody, you and I, to go to space. And they designed this capsule in our software, and they produced a digital twin. And again, the idea of a digital twin for this audience and for others is inside of software, you create a digital representation of your physical asset, your model or your product or your car, whatever. And using tools like simulation, using tools like IoT, using tools like mechanical stress, materials, you can simulate everything about what's going to happen in the real world, but you do it digitally, which is more sustainable, it's less footprint on the world, and it gives you the ability to do it at a much quicker pace.
To make quick changes and
make
test
quick
certain
changes,
things.
adapt to the environment, and they can produce, if they actually go up in space and they realize, well, you know, we actually need to optimize differently, they can retool very quickly in the digital world and then see how it works in the physical world.
So when are we going to space?
When are we going? So they're taking up customers for the first time at the end of 2024.
Wow.
And they've pre-booked like a year out from there. So they've actually, so it's only 9 passengers at a time. So we'll go in 2025.
All right.
How about we'll meet here and then we'll go?
I'm ready. In fact, so it sounds like when we come back and have this conversation in 2 years at CES 2025, the first passengers will have already gone up, and we'll be able to talk about that.
Yeah.
What's the secret sauce to the Siemens Digital Twins software? I mean,
great question.
Why is that the best version of that?
So I would say the thing that is the most unique about Siemens is, first off, the breadth of the capabilities of the Siemens portfolio. So some companies have the ability for you to design. Some companies have the ability to kind of what we call simulate, so add mechanical stress or computational fluid dynamics, which allows you to see the airflow over an object.
Yeah.
Some companies have manufacturing software. We have every part of that, including integrated circuit, you know, kind of electronic software, and we have software that allows you to manage the life cycle of your product, which is called PLM software. So our breadth of the Siemens portfolio is really unmatched to anybody in the world. So you can create the most comprehensive digital twin, and that means the more things I can put in the digital model, the more I'm going to be able to predict the real world.
Yeah.
And we have more capabilities to do that than anybody. It's really a unique advantage for us.
And do you have people who use this, go out and build something in the real world and tell you, geez,
It
that
worked.
digital twin was right on?
That digital twin worked, yeah, absolutely. We have that all the time. It is the coolest way to talk to customers.
You mentioned you're a 175-year-old startup.
Yep.
And obviously the brand has continued to evolve over that time. We're in the branding media subsection of CES here, so I'm curious from your perspective, how have you worked to evolve that brand? Has the brand function as you define it kind of led that, or is the brand function kind of reacting to an evolution that's going on inside of the company anyway?
Great question. So I would say for the company's kind of gone through, we're like in our third evolution. So the first 100 years were really about electrification, like the electrification of the world. And I would say the products drove the brand, okay? The next 100 years, which is kind of the one we're in right now, is really flipped now. The brand is starting to drive what people expect of Siemens. They know they're going to get literally highly capable solutions. They know these solutions have been proven, and our solutions are used by the largest companies in the world, and we're now starting to see a lot of adoption. In fact, Space Perspectives is a great example. Smaller, medium enterprises or startups, which Space Perspective was a startup, came to us and said, listen, we're doing something pretty unheard of. We need a very capable set of tools, but we're not, we're a small company. Can you guys, can we get access to your software? And because we just moved our software to the cloud, it's now a subscription, so you can use it as you go. And so Space Perspectives jumped on, got access to the software. So now it's both the largest in the world and the smallest. In fact, one of the stats people are surprised by, 24 of the 25 automotive OEMs in the world are standardized on Siemens software.
Congratulations. So what's up with the 25th one?
What's the 20? I don't know what's going on with that one. What's taking that? Everyone asks that. I love that question. They're coming around.
I want to ask you about the term metaverse, because some people think it's this pie in the sky idea. Some people think it's a good thing to point to, but it's not here yet. What you're talking about, the digital twin technology that you're talking about, some people might lump that in with the concept of metaverse, but you're actually using it and it's practical and it's in the world right now.
Absolutely.
So as a brand and a marketing communications messaging person, do you like the term metaverse, or do you say, it doesn't actually help us because it doesn't make us seem as practical, or does it make you seem more futuristic? Do you like that term?
I love the term metaverse. I like the term industrial metaverse. Ooh. Because that's the place we're playing in my opinion.
And it gives it a hard and practical
field. And it gives us a hard and practical field in industry, right? It needs to be grounded. So to me, a lot of people I think are hearing about the metaverse and they're thinking, this is gamification, it's VR, artificial intelligence.
Right.
What's the real purpose going to be in the industry? Exactly, frivolous. In fact, I just had a customer say that to me about 6 months ago. I believe if you think about industrial metaverse, if you think about the factories of the future, right? You're going to have factory workers strapped on with VR glasses, and they're actually going to be doing things in the factory where they're going to be immersing themselves in understanding, I'm producing this product on the line, but what's the eventual, where's this component going to be in the eventual product? How is it going to be used? What is the eventual use in the world? And in the metaverse, I'll be able to understand it. So I think there's an industrial play here that's really unique. So I like the metaverse, and I think the only way you can actually experience the digital twin will be in the industrial metaverse. So that's how they connect together.
To fully walk through it.
To fully walk through it, immerse yourself and understand
I suppose even feel it haptically or
feel it, exactly.
Things. I think we have time for one more example that you're showing here at
customer,
CES. I think we have another customer example.
We have another customer example. So the other customer example that I'll go to, which I want to talk about, and I have a gift for you, is Nemo's Gardens. Okay, so Nemo's Gardens we talked about on the podcast.
Yes.
So we have a VR experience in our booth, an immersive industrial metaverse experience, I should call it.
Yes.
In our booth, so check it out if you're here at the show, and if not, check it out online through the web. But picture what looks like a jellyfish. So it's a giant glass dome, and it's got tentacles, kind of like a jellyfish, but those tentacles are actually tethered to the bottom of the ocean floor. And realize there's a lot of countries in the world, Italy is where this was developed first, where they don't have enough land to farm anymore, and they need to produce food locally near where people live. And export and importing is getting harder and harder, as we all know. We've had so many issues with conflict and what have you. So what Nemo's Gardens has done is they actually took this device that they made a digital twin of with analytics and what have you, and they used the ocean by tethering this thing to the ocean floor, using this dome underwater, not real deep, 10, 12 feet, using the condensation of the water and the natural sunlight. They are now producing a garden in the ocean that is producing all kinds of vegetables.
So it's got air underneath
this dome. It's got a little bit of air in a pocket.
Yeah.
And the divers were going out there when they first built this all the time to check on things. Well, with analytics, with the digital twin, with software, they now can predict and understand, are the strawberries ready to be harvested? We don't have to worry about going out there until they're ready to be harvested. Yeah. They know the exact date. They know exactly what's needed. Is there more light needed or less light needed? And so it used to be that you could only farm, and especially if you did something underwater, maybe a month or two out of the year. With all the digital twin technology, they can do all this research all year long and optimize those couple of months of the farming weather very well. And these, for you, is These are chocolates,
Oh,
believe
my
it or not.
gosh.
So nothing like a little bit of sugar here at
Fantastic.
CES. Aren't they cool?
Look at that.
They're very cool.
Hopefully we
and
can-
these were harvested
Oh my
with
gosh.
herbs and strawberries.
No way.
That were made in the Nemo Garden
I'm going to
underwater
open
laboratory.
this and hold it up to my camera to
Hold
make
it
sure
up so
people
everyone
can see
can
that.
see these. Aren't those cool?
From Nemo's garden, harvested underwater.
Super
Well,
cool.
thank you so much. You've automatically become my favorite guest because you're the
Aw.
first. I think you may be the first in 6 years
To
bring,
give you a
to bring
gift?
me a gift on, on the camera. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I'm gonna return the favor. I've got this great brand idea for you.
What is it?
With Siemens, digital twinning is digital winning.
Ooh.
So that's just a freebie from me to you.
Digital twinning is digital winning.
And we'll let the audience judge if that's any good. Brenda Disher
Ooh.
of Siemens, thank you so much for joining us here in the C Space studio, and thank you for the chocolate.
You're welcome. Have a great week.
And thank you so much for joining us here in the C Space studio at CES 2023. I'm James Kotecki. I'm going to eat this now, and we'll see you when we come back.